For this first problem, we're going to find the angle of descent. So to find the angle of descent, we need to know the ground length is 30 miles, which in feet, let's see, 30 times 5,280 is 158,400. And then the height is 25,000 feet. And there are a couple ways to find this. The easiest way is to realize that the ground and the path of the plane are parallel, which makes theta and this angle alternate interior. So we'll just find the alternate interior of that bottom left angle, and that's equal to theta. So I don't care how you solve it. There are lots of ways. Wait, what are you doing? Why? That's okay. All right, whatever. So 25,000 divided by 158,400. And that angle is 8.9. How did I know that number was going to be so small? Right. The vertical distance is so much smaller than the horizontal distance that that bottom angle has to be a lot smaller than the top angle. Okay, so if the pilot makes the correction now, how far is he going to have to travel to reach the runway? Well, I could use sine, I could use cosine, or you could use Pythagorean theorem. Cosine is going to be the easiest. How come? Well, the question is asking how many miles. And I already know how many miles along the ground. So if I do 30 divided by the cosine of the answer, I don't have to do any conversions. It's already in the unit I'm looking for. Why is that number so close to 30? Right. The triangle we're looking at is really thin. This is an 8.9 degree angle, and this is an 81 degree angle. So 81 is really close to 90, so the base should be really close to the hypotenuse, which is true. It's only a third of a mile longer to make that descent. One time, when I was in junior high, or right after junior high, I flew to Phoenix. And on the way home, we flew from Phoenix to Vegas, and we stopped, and a couple people got off the plane, and some more people got on, and then we flew to Salt Lake. Well, the flight from Phoenix to Vegas was like 20 minutes long. And you normally cruise somewhere between 28 and 35,000 feet. Well, we took off, and we were climbing for about 8 minutes. Then the pilot said, we're going to start our landing approach. We're now at 20,000 feet. So we went up, hit 20,000 feet, slowed down, and then landed. It was crazy. I mean, they didn't even serve drinks. The seatbelt light never came off. It was weird. Okay. Phoenix to Vegas. And then we came back home to Salt Lake. Okay, here's a question you don't know the answer to. What is steeper? 8 degrees or 8% grade? Five, 600 miles an hour. 600 knots. Okay, so if I had a hill, and if you go up Huntington Canyon and down Fairview side, I think the grade gets as steep as 8%, and that's a pretty steep canyon, right? One time, this school district had a bus. They went up that way, and the brakes burned up, and they had to crash into the hill to slow themselves down. And now buses are no longer allowed to go that way. Probably. So if I had a hill that was 8% grade, and I had another hill that had an 8-degree angle, which one is steeper? Well, the question is, what does 8% grade mean? Eight out of 1,000 what? So you're saying, so if I took a circle and cut it into 1,000 pieces, so 8 pieces would be right there. Well, so according to that, 1,000% grade would be what? No? So here's 100, 200, 300, 400, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000. 1,000% grade would be flat. That's, no, you'd come all the way around. But a 500% grade, so I'm facing south, and I go up, and I'd be driving on my roof north. I'd be upside down. What does 8% grade mean? No, that is not right. Well, if 8% means 8 out of 1,000, we cut a circle into 1,000 pieces. So if I were to do 1,000% grade, that would mean we were going in the same direction we started in. It would be flat. Right? If I said you're going to climb a hill with a 360-degree angle, you would just go straight. Because 0 degrees and 360 degrees are the same thing. You'll see that a little bit later. Right. Right. So this is 0 degrees. 360 would face in the same direction. So that's not it. What else do you think 8% grade might equal? Close. You got it backwards. No, 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 wrong way. So an 8% grade means for every 100 feet horizontally, you gain 8 feet vertically. That's what 8% grade means. So every foot you travel horizontally, you gain 8% in elevation change. Whether it's up or down, it doesn't matter. Right? So we can use the tangent to figure out what the angle is. Inverse tangent of 8%, or 8 divided by 100. So Fairview Canyon, the steepest it gets is 4.5 degrees. So you'll hear these people who have big trucks, oh, we climbed a hill, it was like 60-degree angle. No. No, our cars are not geared for that. You'd be surprised. You would actually be surprised at how something looks really steep and it's not as steep as you think. Our ability to gauge horizontal distance versus vertical distance is terrible. I mean, if you were to walk, I mean, if you climb a mountain, let's say you go climb East Mountain, it's about 1,500 feet high. Well, you might take a mile to do it. That trail might be a mile long. So if you were to figure out that grade, 1,500, oh, the inverse tangent of 1,500 divided by a mile. Oh, yeah, that's not going to work, is it? And that trail, I don't know if you've ever been on it, it's really steep, but it's only 16 degrees. Yeah, we call those cliffs. A 60-degree angle, we call those cliffs. Yeah. Hey. Yay, Connor! He found a crack in a sidewalk. It was vertical. Okay, so here's something you don't understand. What is 100% grade? Now, a 100% grade would be what angle? A lot of people think 90 degrees. 100% grade is not vertical. 100% grade means for every 100 feet horizontally, you gain 100 feet in elevation. The only triangle that fits that has a 45-degree angle. So 100% grade would be 45 degrees. And you really have to have something geared low, and it has to have a really low center of gravity to climb a hill that's 45 degrees. I mean, insanely difficult to do. So your little Toyota Corolla, no, it wouldn't do it. So here's a question. What is the grade on a vertical line? Not 200. 200 would be for every foot you gain 2 feet. Infinite, which we know. This is an undefined slope. It's 1 over 0, which is infinity. Yeah. So a vertical climb is an infinite grade, which, by the way, is the tangent of 90. Right? Because if you create this triangle, if this is 100 feet, and this is 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot, when we finally go vertical, what is the length of the adjacent? 0. So the tangent of 90 is 1 over 0, which is infinity, which is why your calculator freaks out and says, sorry, I can't answer that. The number's too big. No, they're not. Go measure your stairs. The step is longer than the rise. Oh, yeah. Your stairs are not 45 degrees. Unless you live in one of those old Adobe homes. Those are really steep. Well, and so if you're on a spiral staircase and you don't like the steepness, walk close to the rail. Because that's a variable steepness, right? If you're close to the post, the stairs are really steep. If you walk closer to the rail, the steps are longer on the edges. So now Brindler's going to go home into his kitchen and climb his stairs again on the outside this time. Okay. So let's look at number 2, or 3 and 4, sorry. The Great Pyramid of Giza has a square base measuring 230 meters on a side. If the steps of the pyramid are set at a 51.8 degree angle to the ground, so this angle here, how tall is the pyramid? So this is kind of confusing. So here's, if you were to walk down this side, it would be something like that, right? But we want to know, let me see if I can draw this. So that's the base. And then right in the center of the base is the vertical line. So here's our triangle. Does that make sense? So A is the distance. If I draw this is the base, okay? Here's the top. And then this distance right here is A. That's from the midpoint of the side to the very center of the base. Okay? And then B is the height. And then C, the hypotenuse, is the length from the midpoint to climb the pyramid to the top. Okay? And we know that that angle right there is 51.8. And we know the measure of the base is 230 meters. So what is A? Half of that. How come? Well, it's a square. So if this base is 230, then that base is 230. And the distance from the center to the edge, the right angle distance, is half of 230. So A is 115 degrees. What are we looking for in this problem? Yes. Yes. Well, they didn't. Do you know how they built the pyramids? They I don't think I can draw it. So here's what the pyramid would look like. So what they did is they built a ramp. So they built the base, and then they built a ramp, and they pushed the stones there, and then the next one, then the next one. So they built it from the top down. So they didn't actually have to climb anything. They just built a ramp. Yeah, a long time. Long time. Yes, very long time. Either that or the aliens did it for them. Because they had to house that. What was that? They had to house that machine, the black hole machine or whatever it was. Okay, so question 3 is asking for B, right? The height. How far is it from here to here? So that's going to be a tangent problem. So the tangent of 51.8 equals B over 115. Is that a multiply or a switch problem? Tangent of 51.8 equals A over 1, no, B over 115. Multiply. So 115 tangent of 51.8. Oops. So it's 146 meters high. Well, actually, it used to be before the top weathered off. I don't know. People have, I don't know. You mean the pyramid had a cavity, so they put a crown on it? Okay. So the next question, if you were to walk straight up the side of the pyramid to the top and back, how far would you travel? And again, this has to be from the midpoint of the base. So what are we looking for? We're looking for C. So how do we find C? You could use Pythagorean theorem. Could use sine. I would use cosine because the 115 isn't rounded. So 115 divided by the cosine of 51.8. So my answer is no. Doubled. The question asked how far to the top and back. Yeah. That's meters. Yep. 371 meters to go from base to top and back. Yes, there will be questions like this on the test. Okay, this one's pretty easy. I'll set it up and then I'll let you solve for it. The distance from one sideline of an NBA basketball court to the other is 50 feet. So an end line is 50 feet long. The distance from one end line to the half court line is 47 feet. So this is 47, which means the length of a sideline is 94. The first question asks, if you draw a diagonal, you create two angles, a big one and a small one. What are those two angles? That's pretty easy to find. The second question asks, what is the length of the diagonal? And that's pretty easy too. So for sake of time, we're going to go to the next. Oh, that doesn't work. We're going to go to the next problem. This one's a little bit more involved. A construction company wants to build a railroad tunnel through a mountain. They are unsure how much the tunnel is going to cost because they do not know how long the tunnel needs to be. They have set up their survey equipment on the top of the mountain. They've determined that the top of the mountain is 8,000 feet from the marker on the west side of the mountain, which creates a 20-degree angle with the ground. The angle formed by lines from the east and west markers that meet at the top of the mountain is exactly 90 degrees. The west marker is 950 feet from the west side of the mountain, and the east marker is 2,150 feet from the east side. Let me zoom in on this and we'll start labeling things. Okay, what do we know? Big mountain. Other than that, So this is 8,000. That is our right angle. What else do we know? What is 950? So this little gap here is 950 feet. And the other gap is 2150. Okay? What else do we know? Not 20%, 20-degree angle right here. So I'm going to call this side B, and the hypotenuse is C. Number 7, how far is the east marker from the top of the mountain? What are we looking for? B. How do we calculate B? Tangent of 20 equals B over 8,000. Is that a switch or a multiply? So, 8,000 tangent of 20. So that distance is 29.76 feet. Okay? Number 8, how far is it from the west marker to the east marker? What is that asking for? The hypotenuse. So we could use Pythagorean theorem. We could use trig. I'm going to use the cosine because the 8,000 is not rounded. Is that, if I do cosine, is it a switch or a multiply? A switch. So 8,000. So it's either cosine of 20 equals x over 8,000. Do I multiply 8,000 or do I switch the x and the cosine? That's a multiply problem. What if it's set up the other way? That's the correct way. So all I do is switch the x and the cosine. So it's just 8,000 over the cosine of 20. Oops. So that's the answer for 8. How do we figure out how long the tunnel is? Right, I subtract those two gap distances that we wrote down earlier. So minus 950 and minus 2150. So the tunnel is 5,400 feet long. How much will the tunnel cost if it's $2.5 million per mile? Well, I can't figure that out quite yet. Well, right, I need to convert my feet into miles before I multiply by 2.5 million. So I'm going to divide this by 2.5 million. And it's, oops, I did one too many zeros. Oh, I totally screwed that up. Sorry, don't ask me what I was doing. That didn't make any sense at all. Okay, divide by 5280. So it's 1.02 miles. Now I times that by, so $2,563,000 to build that tunnel. And I believe railways cost $1 million a mile these days. That's if you're not digging a tunnel. They're really expensive. Mountains are not cheap. Although it's probably cheaper to dig through the mountain than it is to go over it in some cases. Okay. The extra credit problem. Some of you want some credits. Here's how you can get half an assignment. Students at a school are painting their school emblem, which is the fierce equilateral triangle, on the middle of the football field in preparation for homecoming week. They are trying to determine how big they can make the triangle with the amount of paint they have on hand. If they have enough paint to cover 200 square feet, what is the side length of the largest equilateral triangle that can be painted? And they plan to paint the whole triangle one solid color. So you know that the area of that triangle is 200 square feet. What else do you know about the triangle? It's equilateral, so all of the angles are 60, and all of the sides are the same. So you know that the area is 200 square feet, you know that all of the side lengths are the same, and you know that all of the angles are 60. That's enough information to figure out the length of one side. All right, and I highly recommend you start the practice test tonight so you can ask questions on that tomorrow.